righteousness has a bad name. It gets this name from two distortions. One is legalism, and legalism tries to specify precise details about all kinds of matters that we should be prepared to allow to individual freedom in a spiritual unity that can embrace people's varied inherent temperaments, their ways of thinking and feeling and acting. And the other distortion of righteousness is self-righteous assertion, swaggering and hostile, and ready to sweep aside entire swaths of humanity with their superior attitude of anger and contempt. When Jesus talked about righteousness, it was different. And I think that he had an evolution, a growth in mind, and that we can see that in the first two of the Beatitudes. He started out, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." That means the humble. "For theirs is the kingdom of heaven." That means all are invited to join the family of God, beginning with this beautiful faith and trusting dependence of a little child. And from there, you begin to grow. And from there, you begin to realize how good God is. And you find that you are sometimes able to pass on some of that goodness to others. And it feels wonderful. And you know that the righteousness of God is a long ways off. But you begin to experience a hunger and thirst for righteousness. That hunger and thirst prepares you. And what does Jesus say? Happy are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Now, I must say, the very concept of righteousness implies that righteousness is primarily a quality of God. And it's something that we approximate in our growth only gradually and only incompletely, especially in this life. But Jesus says, happy are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Is he only talking about a satisfaction beyond this life? I believe not. I believe that he's promising a satisfaction that we can begin to experience when we're living that hunger and thirst, and we're turning within to the Spirit of God to receive what God has been waiting to give us. And that pouring into our being starts to happen. That righteousness is starting to come in. And I think of the prophet Isaiah saying, my soul shall rejoice in the love of my God, for he has clothed me in the garments of salvation and has covered me with the robe of his righteousness. Now that, what a beautiful expression. And I think that there's this wonderful gift of righteousness that we receive by faith. And the beauty of that reception, and the beauty of the love and mercy of God that gives that gift to our faith is the occasion of great celebration. But you know that gift, once you receive it, or if you're like me and you feel the need to go back for a retread many times, you realize that it's not static, that God increasingly makes us perfect like himself. And as we grow, that righteousness grows. And there are things that we need to learn along that path that aren't simply given to us. We need to learn and cooperate in the growth of our souls. And in that growth, we activate a much more full concept of morality that is common. Because I would portray morality as the wise integration of two domains of truth. On the one hand, there's spiritual truth, the love and the mercy and the worship and the service and the joy and the liberty and the faith, the assurance, all these wonderful truths of spiritual experience. Jesus lived and taught. And not only Jesus, so much of this has become the common possession of humanity. In so many religions, these teachings appear in this way and that, and quite apart from texts and scriptures. In those who hunger and thirst, and those who have this childlike openness to be meek towards God and to achieve that purity of heart. They know these qualities. Oh, I am so grateful to have met people all over the world from many different religious traditions and without religion or very little, who have taught me much about these qualities of the spiritual life. And the other realm of truth is an understanding of universe causation, the process by which evolution transpires, the laws, the principles of sequence, that this has got to happen before this can happen, and so on. That understanding, and some of it is realism about how the world works, you know, that thought, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Well, the harmless of doves is the beautiful spiritual, and the wise as serpents is that other domain of truth about how the world works, and don't fall into a pit while you're staring at the stars. So when those realms of truth, the spiritual idealism and the scientific realism, are wisely integrated, then we have this beautiful wholeness of righteousness. And I believe that Jesus understood that that can be lived now for all that we need to gain after this life. We've hardly begun our real ascent to heaven. Oh, that beautiful wholeness of righteousness culminates. Not that that is ever static, it's always continual growth, but that culminates the series of 3 stages, from the hunger and thirst to the gift of God, to how we learn to cooperate with God in the different domains of truth, of his activity. Good day.